What's up guys, it's Punchy, and today we're back with a pretty interesting weekly Deepwoken patch with a bunch of new updates to base gameplay itself and some new content to mess around with. If you missed it, last week was insane with the introduction of a new Flame Charm Legendary Flamethrower and of course our special chef equipment. Seriously, that definitely had some community and gameplay impact, so check it out. But anyway, as always, if you want to get the entire experience for this update, I'd recommend hopping in game and trying it out for yourself. With that being said, I'll do my best to show you what's up. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Beginning this update, we have a crazy new mantra that's honestly super cool and unique. Introducing Iron Sing's Metal Turret. Just like the name suggests, we spawn in a rotating turret of death that constantly pierces enemies in range with high damage, high posture, while also placing an iron rod. This might be a terrible mantra if people aren't nearby, but it's super spammy with additional pressure on top. Keep in mind, you cannot spawn this without touching the floor. Next up, with a new alloyed weapon with also a new crit for both variants, we have the alloyed Forge Great Hammer. On equip, you'll notice that this new weapon variant has a simple difference in color, but that's not what I want to focus on. With a hyper armor double swing, we slam the Forge Hammer into our enemy while dealing high damage and knocking them down. It's fairly simple and pretty cool, and it might have solid synergy with Mantra's setup. Starting it off with some major changes to a recently added Rosen's Hellflame, we got a few substantial nerfs. Beginning with a huge feature that honestly should have been added on its release, the critical cooldown works a little bit differently. Previously, before this update, as soon as you pressed any crit, the standing or the aerial, your cooldown would instantly count down so you could throw it out again when that was finished. Now, instead, the critical cooldown will begin to tick down and subtract as soon as the crit ends, which is way more fair. Also, the critical cooldown for every single option has been increased from a crazy 4 seconds to 6, which is much better. Further upon these nerfs, multiple slowing talents no longer work with the Hellflame crit to cut down some of those cheese combos that were honestly just not fun. So I guess we'll see how this performs after the update. Moving further into a massive overall change, we have an update to Parry Stun. Essentially, what this means, whenever you defend any attack with a parry, players are unable to act for a set amount of time, and this greatly affects the flow of battle. In the update, Parry Stun, or the amount of downtime after being parried, has been reduced to prevent unpunishable feints. So this means your M1 can be thrown out much sooner after being stunned from a parry, which is great for shutting down players that feint with their weapon. Also, the duration range between slower and faster weapon parry stun has been reduced from 0.2 parry stun with a fast weapon to 0.3 with a heavier. Again, not much has changed when comparing weapons, but your parry stun duration should be lower or less if you're parried by somebody with a faster weapon. Basically, a heavier weapon hitting a lighter weapon, they have less stun. It's definitely confusing, but overall, feints are finally punishable time-wise in parry trades, and just parry stun overall has been reduced. Onto another massive combat change, the concept of Shaky block is finally being touched. So whenever you get hit by a move and parry too early, you enter a state of weak block or shaky block where you're forced to take posture damage. In this change, the faster the attacking weapon is, the less duration of shaky block they will provide to the enemy. This means a heavier weapon will grant a longer debuff compared to something faster, which is a pretty large nerf to faster swinging weapons and a buff to heavy. Also, to clarify, shaky block duration is only determined by the attacking weapon and not the weapon that you have on defense. Moving on to dodges, we have a major change to how they function. In this patch, canceling your dodge will end its animation much earlier and allow you to make an action much quicker than before. Roll cancel animations won't be played if you cancel a roll with anything other than a feint, so keep that in mind. Further upon this, casting mantras while inside a roll, which could happen with very specific timing or lag, will now cancel that roll early. Animation stacking with rolls will hopefully be fixed in this update, and that's good. Next up, with some well-awaited character customization, we have even more options in our creation menu. When crafting up your character for the first time, we can now select our hair IDs before spawning in. There's a new tab in the line of options that we're all used to, where you can simply input any hair ID and it will be applied to your character. This is great, but sadly, barbers and fade trimmers, you might be out of a job after this one. In this update, we also got some new content concerning the Ignition Delver origin. Found in the depths at the Chariot Spire, we're finally able to embark on a dive into layer 2 if you've escaped with a drill once before. Doing this method will skip the generator step of the process and spawn you at the ignition hideout at the cost of your light hook, and this means means you would do this to get better loot, since no light hook means increased rarity from drops. It's pretty cool and might be worth doing. Moving on with another new addition, inside Miner's Landing, there's a forge which can be accessed for alloy transformation. Found in this location, there's a new forge which can be used to refine 3 pluripotent alloys into 1 Smith's alloy. Simply, for trading in resources, this is very powerful. Also added in this update, everything from Klaris with a medallion shop can be purchased in bulk. Previously, before this change, we'd have to click every single time to buy some knowledge or enchant, and honestly, that was kind of annoying. Now, in this update, it's possible to cop anything from the shop with a slider, and this is huge for saving time. Anyway, moving on to a really interesting change that's pretty small but effective, we have an update to Dawnwalkers. In this update, Dawnwalkers have finally gained immunity to an almost forgotten attunement, being Iron Sing. According to the Oath talent, Absolute Radiance, hitting any Dawn move makes you immune to all elemental status for a set duration, except for Iron Sing. Of course, this was made before the attunement was even conceived as a concept, so we weren't going to be immune to this. In the update, it's hopefully been fixed for good, which is nice to see. Next up, with another Oath change, we actually have a sizable nerf to Starkindred's new move. The talent, Death from Above, allows the user to cancel their air dash instantly to do a combo for extra damage. In this update, the first slash of this attack is no longer an instant guard break, and its hyper armor only continues if the first slash lands. Alongside an overall optimization of the damaging hitbox, this move should feel better to use and fairer to defend against. And with that, that's all I got for this week's patch. As always, make sure to head on over with your friends to check out the weekly Battle Royale if you want to run some matches. Thanks so much for watching, and if you learned something new, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm constantly dropping videos on exclusive update content, so help me reach 100k subs. We're almost there, and thanks again, it's punchin' time.